Subcommittee on Intergovernmental Affairs and the Subcommittee on Healthcare Benefits and Administrative Rules will come to order. Without objection, the presiding member is authorized to declare recess at any time. Over the past several decades, regulations imposed by the federal government have had an adverse impact on economic activity as these federal regulations have accumulated over time. Regulatory accumulation is a drag on our economy and it stifles innovation. According to a recent study by the Mercatus Center, if federal regulations had held at the 1980 levels, our economy would be nearly 25% larger than it was as of 2012. We have seen the results of this regulatory accumulation in the stunning decline of the number of new businesses. A Gallup organization report from back in 2015 showed that American business deaths outnumber business births. I have a copy of that entitled American Entrepreneurship, Dead or Alive, that I would like to enter into the public record, and will do so without objection. In my experience in Alabama, people don't want to start a business when the overwhelming uncertainty of the regulatory process threatens to come down on them. Why bother when the risks are compounded by a myriad of complex and sometimes contradictory regulations? Recognizing the potential benefits of a deregulatory agenda, President Trump called for a 1-in, 2-out ratio for new regulatory actions. This shift in regulatory policy is expected to save business owners and entrepreneurs both time and money. While the United States is still in the early stages of implementing regulatory reform, we know from some of our foreign friends and allies that the push for deregulation has resulted in tremendous outcomes. In British Columbia, the Canadian government experimented with regulatory reform beginning in 2001. To date, the British Columbia government has repealed more than 40% of their regulatory requirements. As a result, British Columbia experienced a period of per capita GDP growth and business development that outpaced the national average in Canada. Another success story took place in Australia, where the national government initiated a standard business reporting, or SBR, system that made it easier for businesses to report one time rather than typical duplicative reporting mechanisms. Savings from the SBR from 2015 to 2016 were roughly $1.1 billion in Australian dollars, or 750 to 800 million US dollars. However, we don't have to look so far for success stories. Our 50 states have shown what may work for the rest of the country. Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin instituted a red tape reduction initiative. State officials are undertaking a review of the entire pool of state regulations to identify those that are unnecessary, duplicative, and ineffective. In a short period of time, Kentucky has repealed 453 regulations, which is nearly 10% of Kentucky's total pool of regulations. Kentucky officials report these efforts have led to the creation of roughly 40,000 jobs and $9.2 billion in direct investment in the state. We're fortunate to have with us today at today's hearing witnesses who can speak to each of these examples. I'm eager to learn from them, what worked, what didn't, and what could be done differently. I would like to make clear that this hearing is not about slashing regulations, as some may suggest. Our focus today is on streamlining reporting to make compliance burdens easier. Our focus is on helping small businesses survive and thrive in the 21st century. We're talking about eliminating obsolete, duplicative, and contradictory regulations that don't make sense. I'll close with something President Obama said about regulations back in 2011 in the Wall Street Journal. He wrote that sometimes those rules have gotten out of balance, placing unreasonable burdens on business, burdens that have stifled innovation and have had a chilling effect on growth and jobs. I bring this up because, to me, this is something that we should all agree is important to our nation. For a nation as economically powerful as ours to lag behind our friends and allies when it comes to innovation and new business creation is not only unfortunate, it is a missed opportunity. I ask my Democratic friends to join us in making this a priority. I thank the witnesses again and look forward to hearing from each of you about regulatory reform success stories. I'll also ask to have this Gallup report included in the record as I mentioned earlier, and without objection, so ordered. I now recognize the ranking member of the Healthcare Benefits Administrative Rules Subcommittee, Mr. Christopher Morphy.